I will now start with our first candidate, Mr. Smanis, who will be addressed by Dr. Schoenmakers.
Dear Con, I would like to start with a quote from Niels Bohr, which says, "It's hard to make predictions, especially about the future." Now, that is exactly what we were trying to do. We were trying to make predictions about how our electron microscopes at Thermo Fisher would be used in the future by future generations of scientists. And it's then all too easy to dream up all kinds of science fiction scenarios about the usage of these microscopes. And those scenarios can be met with enthusiasm or with skepticism, really depending on the gut feeling of people and the way that they look at it. So another quote says, "The best way to predict the future is to create it." And that's exactly what we set out to do. So instead of just dreaming about how that future would look like, we set out to create that future by actually starting to code, using all kinds of novel technologies, a new so-called intelligent microscope. You had to build for that on somebody else's work, because we already had one iteration of this intelligent microscope done last year. And that actually makes it harder rather than easier, because you have to first start to understand what the previous person has done, see where you can improve upon it, and then start to add new technologies to it. So in the previous incarnation, we already had voice control. We already had an understanding of the instrument where you could say, "Show me all big mitochondria inside cells." And it would understand what that big inside cells would mean. And it was able to detect these. But you had to go beyond. So you really had to go and first interview our stakeholders to see what is really interesting for them. You did that with great care and selected a particular use case for the detection of asbestos fibers in samples. Then you realize that, hey, this is a different microscope than the first incarnation was done. But why do we use a different interface? So you started working on a uniform voice interface that can now address all the types of microscopes that we have. And you really communicated this very well to the team, so we were constantly involved and up to date. Now, finally, it also meant you had to do a lot of plumbing, a lot of groundwork that you had to refactor, because you now suddenly had 3 or 4 use cases instead of 1. And although, you know, that's almost unnoticeable in the end, I think that makes what a great designer is. You do a lot of work, and it just works, and it's unnoticeable how much effort went into it. So excellent, excellent job. Thanks to your work now, we now have some really cool piece of software to work with and to play with for the next years to come. I would like to thank you for your work, for your insights, for your drive and passion. And I would say, despite what Niels Bohr had said, the future has become clearer now. Thank you very much.